Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for Armor Animal Health's video series, Have You Heard? My name is Leslie Grabat, and I will give you a little bit about my background before we begin, just in case you missed us last week. But I've been with Armor Animal Health for just over 8 years now. I'm originally from Minnesota, where I've always had an interest in animals and ag. While growing up, I spent many of my weekends on my cousin's cow-calf operation or showing in dog sports. I went to the University of Minnesota and received an animal science degree in animal production systems. I currently live in Waterloo, Wisconsin, which is about 30 minutes northeast of Madison. There we have a small hobby farm that I share with our dogs and cats. Presently, I spend several weekends a month competing and training in flyball, lure coursing, and doing herding with our dogs. So I would like to know what your favorite ice cream flavor is in honor of National Ice Cream Day coming up this weekend. It does look like we have a few of you that have already been commenting. Looks like Ashley Anderson's favorite is butter pecan, and I would have to agree with her. That is also my favorite. Katie likes Pirate's Bounty from Cedar Crust. Looks like Jim likes chocolate chip cookie dough. And Vicki likes chocolate chip cookie dough as well. So we have 2 so far for butter pecan and 2 for chocolate chip cookie dough. So we'll see which one ends up being the winner. So feel free to keep mentioning kind of what your favorite ice cream is, and we'll kind of take a look at that a little bit later in the show. But we know many of our youth are spending this summer differently, like all of us. You guys are no longer preparing the animals for shows, for markets, and so you guys had until yesterday to earn a chance to be our very own Grand Champion and Reserve Grand Champion winner. So in these prize packs, there was Armor gift cards, cooler, sunscreen, lots of supplies for s'mores, beach towel, water bottle, some outdoor games, barbecuing supplies, frisbees, glow sticks, and a beach ball. So we will announce our winners at the end of this edition of Have You Heard? So keep with us, stay tuned. We'll be announcing our Grand Champion and Reserve Grand Champion winner. Everyone, though, that did participate will get an ice cream coupon, so stay tuned. So it looks like we have many of you joining us here today, so thank you for taking that time to listen, and we will get right to it. So high quality milk is a vital part of success in the dairy industry. Last week, we did review the first components of a mastitis herd evaluation, which was record evaluation and parlor review. This week we'll be looking at the barn and stall component, as well as the solutions that can help decrease mastitis on your farm. Today we do have one of our Armor Animal Health veterinarians joining us. Dr. Armon is back. He is in Downing, Wisconsin, which is about 50 minutes northwest of Eau Claire. And I do believe he is in his house this week, so there are no storms and he has power. So Dr. Armon, how are you doing today, and what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm doing real good. Raining, sunshiny. Yesterday my favorite was bubble gum. Today it's blackjack cherry. It moves, it goes, depending on the day. Thank you all for coming back. Again, it's a very nice day today, so hopefully we have some very good questions that hopefully we can answer.
Thanks, Dr. Armon. So in case some of our viewers did not hear again last week, would you be able to give a little introduction to yourself and maybe explain what the cuckooing might be going on behind you as well?
Oh, that's, well, there's not a whole lot going on. I stopped most of them. So I graduated from Kansas State University in 1978 in large animal proficiency, and took a job in Glenwood City, Wisconsin. I practiced there for 33 years, at which time expansions took place in about 96, at which time I was about 54 years old. And by 10 years later, my arm was done. And was fortunate enough to have Jim Metz call me and asked if I would join the team at then Animart, now Armor. And I thought I would try that. And it's ended up to be a very good deal for hopefully for Armor and definitely for me. I've lived in the Downing. I currently live in Downing, which is just right outside of Columbus City, like Leslie said, between Eau Claire and Hudson, right off of 94. So that's it.
Yep. Thanks, Dr. Armon. Just wanted to remind our viewers that as we go along throughout our discussion today, feel free to ask questions in the comments, and we'll be getting to those at the end of our discussion. So keep asking away, keep adding your favorite flavor of ice cream. But so, Dr. Armon, what are the next steps when you're investigating the cause of mastitis on farm?
The next steps are, last week we dealt with the parlors, the teat dips and things like that. Now the next step is to look at the environment back in the barn. So I always do a good walkthrough. I look at the bedding, what type of bedding. I look at the stocking rate, very important. So how many stalls do you have? How many cows do you have in the pen? So this happens to be pretty important as far as, you know, are we overcrowding? Are we undercrowding? Makes a difference from one pen to another. What type of animals are in there? Do we have first calf heifers? Do we have cows in the same pen? Or do we have them separated out in their own individual pens? I also look at stall usage. Are the stalls being used? Are there certain stalls that are not used, and why aren't they used? This again has a big determination as to how the attitude of the cow is before she goes up to milk. So the stocking, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, kind of with that stocking rate, how do you see that affecting kind of mastitis and being overcrowded with the groups?
Well, the stocking rate, and it takes a terrific amount of management on overstacked. I've seen them overstocked at 140%, down to 105%. I think if we are going to do something like that, it seems to me that right around the 115 to 120 seems to be a very feasible area that we can do that in. I'd rather not overstock, but in today's economy and with milk pricing the way it is, you know, we're forced to. So if a cow doesn't have the resting phase or able to rest properly, they stand around. And a cow that stands around isn't very efficient. They need the resting stage. They also need to be able to eat. So if we're overstocked and we only have a specific number of areas where the cow can eat, she will stand around until somebody opens up. Or if that's too long, they'll just go lay down. I've seen cows where we pushed up feed and they've gone in to eat, and there's cows that are sitting there. As soon as the stall opens up, she pops in there to rest. If she's not eating, she's not producing milk. I also look at the waterers. Are they clean? How many are there? Again, if a cow has to wait, she will not wait. She will get bored and go lay down or go somewhere else. So it's really important. If we get a tremendous amount of overstocking, the biggest problem is manure handling. We're milking 3 times a day. If we're stocked at 140%, we almost need to clean or scrape those pens 4 times a day, okay? Because we're getting a lot more manure produced. And so again, last week we dealt with cleanliness. We dealt with udder cleanliness. Now, if I've got dirty udders, now I go and look and see why. So.
Well, thanks, Dr. Armon. When you are looking at groups, is there some groups that are more sensitive to overcrowding than others?
Absolutely. Our pre-fresh pens, our calving pens, and our post-fresh pens. I don't like to stock those, if possible, over 70%. So if I've got cows that are doing very well post-fresh, I'll move them in right away so I can lighten up the load in the post-fresh pen. I really don't like pre-fresh pens overstocked. The cows are nervous enough as they are having their calf without having a bunch of other cows, you know, looking in. If you don't have individual pens, I really highly suggest not overstocking the pre-fresh and the post-fresh pens. Their intakes are really critical at this point. And the pre-fresh pen, if we can't get them to eat, we're going to have some serious metabolic issues post-fresh. Same with post-fresh. Their intakes always go down during freshening. So our job is to make sure that their intakes stay up. So, but pre-fresh, post-fresh are really critical. So.
Well, thanks. One question that I've always kind of wondered is how does bedding and feeding affect mastitis, and what do you look at when you're in the barn at those two issues?
Well, I alluded to bedding a little earlier, but the bedding, I look at the type. Okay, are we on sand? Shavings? Are we doing manure solids? Are we doing paper? Paper is very, very common up in the northeastern part of the state. Why? Because of the paper mills. Shredded paper is actually really, really good bedding. It does pack, and you get some ink on the cows, especially the white ones, but it's not dirt. It's just ink. Sand and can carry numerous bacteria. And then, of course, manure solids, if not at the proper moisture, can also either create a dust, which will give us a nasal discharge on some cows, or it'll be too wet and actually put a bacterial load on the udder. We want to minimize the bacterial load on the cows. Okay, there's two ways to do that: bedding and flaming. I recommend flaming year-round. Winter, summer, 6 weeks apart, regular schedule. And the whole purpose of that is to minimize the amount of bacteria that's on the udder at any given time. So if we can reduce that, we'll reduce our incidence. Different beddings, and actually in my part of the state right now, it's very difficult to find bedding. Some of the fracked sands are unavailable. Some of the sands have become coarser, which is not good. You know, chopped straw is not plentiful. Sawdust is not plentiful. And what we're getting is somewhat wet, which is not good. I would rather use, if we can't use dry sawdust, I wouldn't use anything, you know. So I also look at stall maintenance. The stall maintenance is critical. The bed that the cow lays in has to look comfortable. And when you have mounds of sand or bedding on underneath the loops or in front, it just doesn't look appeasing, and the cows don't actually lay in there the way I would like them to lay in there. So grooming the stalls is essential no matter what bedding you're using. And also, I also look at where the neck rail is, and because as the cows get up, they need the lunge space. But I don't want them to lay forward in the stall, and I don't want them to lay too far back in the stall. So this is why it's really important that when you group your animals, grouping heifers and grouping adult cows, make it really, really hard to adjust the rail as to where they're going to lay. So I just view all that as possibilities. If they lay too far in front, there's going to be more manure in the back end of the stall. If they lay toward the back end, you're going to see some feed issues. And feed issues, mastitis, and low production go hand in hand. So, okay. The feeding schedules, I also like to look at those. One thing that is unacceptable is and I used to do my herd checks at 3:30 in the morning because it was quiet. But when I would walk into the barn and there was no feed in front of the cows, this is a problem. If a cow doesn't eat or have feed available for her for 2 hours, you're sacrificing a huge amount of production. Not to mention the nervousness that creates with the cow, because cows think if there's no feed, that means I'm not going to get fed again, ever. And that's not the case, but I've had to adjust my feeding schedule. So maybe somebody lays down some feed at 2 o'clock in the morning, just carries over till the feeder starts at 6. I look at push-ups. How often do they push up? Every time, and most of your dairymen will know this, every time you push up cows get up to eat. So the more frequent we can do that, the better off. Also, when they come back from the parlor, if there's not feed there, they will just go and lay down. So if we have fresh feed in front of them as they come back to the parlor, they'll stop and eat. They'll stop and drink. Then they'll go rest. So I just look at the general attitude in feed push-ups. How many do we do a day? When do we do them? And that type of thing. So that's what I
Great.
got.
Another kind of question that I had for you was, are there any behavior components that you typically look at that can sometimes contribute to increasing mastitis?
Any what kind of components?
Behavior.
Oh, behavior, absolutely. Okay, that's the other thing I observe. When cows come to the parlor and when they come back from the parlor, I look at how that transition takes place. Are they lingering around and looking around? Are they just making their move toward the parlor? I spent a lot of time looking at what Temple Grandin has done in her research on beef cows and how beef cows act. Dairy cows act the same. For some reason, cows like to go in a counterclock direction. They don't enjoy going in a clockwise. So when you move your pens, you open the gate and you go to your right to get these cows to go in a counterclockwise direction. They seem to go easier. They move at a nicer pace, and it gives our people time. I've seen, and if you want to prove this, go into a pen of heifer, stand in the middle, and see which way they go. And I would say out of 10 times, they're going to go counterclockwise around you. Okay. So we need to, and Temple Grandin did some outstanding research in beef. She actually says that our dairy systems are set up totally wrong, and I have to agree with her because we've set our dairy operations up to make it easier for us and not the cows. And she's correct in that. And if you think about it, in which way cows move and which way cows work, there's a lot of truth to that. Unfortunately, we're light years away from fixing that. So yeah, cow movement. I look at our cow pushers. Are they moving the cows at a pleasant rate? Okay, most of your cows will move on their own. And I actually do a training on cow movement. I probably do 2 to 3 a year on just with our cow pushers and training them the proper method on how to move cows, where their safe zones are, where their panic zones are. And remember, last week I said, if a cow's heart rate goes up from a distraction or from something as much as sparkling water or a tractor going through or a coat hanging on a post, if their heart rate goes up, it takes 20 minutes for that heart rate to come back down. And an excited cow never milks as good as a cow that's calm. I mentioned last week, when I go into a parlor, I look and see if the cows are chewing their cud. If they are, they're happy and they don't mind getting milked. If they're not and they're running, their heart rate is up. And it's really important. I don't allow any loud shouting. I don't allow any whistling. Okay. The only thing I want my cow pushers to do is just in a calm voice, because remember, cows know you're yelling at them, but they don't know what you're saying. Okay. So you go in a calm voice. Come on, girl. So, boss. Yeah, you're always going to get the one that is at the back of the pack, but just be patient with her, because, you know, that's just the way she is. So, okay.
Thanks, Dr. Armon. I would like to remind our viewers still to feel free to ask questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So type your comments in the feed below, and we will get to them shortly. But so, Dr. Armon, after you have completed the evaluation, what are some common solutions that you've implemented in the past?
Well, I always try to combine everything. I've taken notes through the whole thing. So I look at I try to develop a written report and a plan. Okay, so we got to have a plan. And does this plan, it varies for every farm. So I make the written report with my suggestions on changes that we make. We may have to change our prep procedure. If our prep to place times are longer than are shorter than 90 seconds, I may just add on one more cow to prep before and get into that 90 to 120 second period of time. My scores as far as cleanliness, while I'm back in the barn, I look for pools of water. Are they coming through water? Do we have splash factor? I look at if they're not flaming in the summer, I recommend they do, you know, just to keep the bacterial load off the udder. Try to keep the cows clean. If my towels are full of manure, then we need to change that. I mean, it varies from farm to farm, and no matter what I get, it could, our whole issue could be in the calving pen. Our whole issue could be in the bedding. Depends on what I find and what I do. It could be on cow movement. These cows are coming in, they're excited, they're running back to their pens, and it could be something as simple as feed. So again, anytime you take a cow out of her normal routine, it seems to be a big issue. And when it's a big issue, they'll close down. And when they close down, we could get high cell counts. We can get other issues too, but you know, the first thing usually to show up is that. Then I look at the vaccines. So what vaccines are we using? Do I need to make any changes in the vaccines? Do I have to add another one at a specific time of the year? After looking at my bulk tanks, I see that every July I have an E. coli problem. Okay, so maybe I should put a J5 vaccination or a JVac vaccination or Endovac or whatever you're using a month prior to July. So maybe end of May or June to see if we can thwart this away from always being an issue in those months. Same thing in the fall when it's really wet and we have temperature changes. So it all depends on what we're doing. Now, if I find on my bulk tank that we are having contagious bacteria, we have to talk about isolation pens. Okay, so if I have a prototheca or if I have mycoplasma, Staph aureus, or strep ag, we're going to have to talk about isolation pens, which means we're going to have to find these animals that are infected, and we're going to have to isolate them, and we're going to have to milk them last. It's not always a pleasant conversation to have, but it has to be done. You know, all the changes that I make are determined on the findings that I've seen. So.
Great. So thanks, Dr. Armon, for sharing that information with us. It does look like we have some questions that have come in. So while I still have you here, Dr. Armon, if you wouldn't mind, I will take a look and see what we have.
Sure.
So it looks like Vicki Lauer was wondering if was wondering, are cows or heifers more susceptible to mastitis?
To be quite honest with you, it's really not a cow problem. Okay, it's usually a equipment, an employee, or an environmental problem. In very rare instances, you'll get heifers that just don't adapt. Okay, they just will not adapt. That's a cow problem. Okay, I don't think you can break it down between heifers or you can break it down between cows. The environment is the same in the back, whether it affects heifers, whether it affects cows. Sure, cows have more immunity, but that doesn't mean they're totally exempt from getting mastitis. If we have an overwhelming amount of bacteria on the udder, they'll all perform well. So I never blame the cow because she's only dealing with what's there. So I don't blame the cow. We're doing something wrong if we're seeing it that way. Now, I do look and see if that's the case, because some farms calve their heifers in different places than they do their cows. But again, that's an environmental issue. It's not the cow, it's the environment.
Great, thank you. And looks like Jim has a question about how does high temp and humidity affect mastitis? They already have fans and water misters in the barn.
Well, anytime you have high temperature and high humidity, you're dealing with clammy udders. They're wet, they're damp. It's hard to get them clean and dry. You want to milk a cow, clean, dry teat. Plus, they're like we are. Their intakes and feed will go down, even with misters. Now, misters are great and they work really well. Without them, it's devastating. With them, it's just, it's something we have to deal with. Okay, so depending on how the misters and droppers are set up, we don't want a cow that's soaking wet. We don't want a cow that's dry. All misters and all water needs to be blown off with a fan. And if you use the analogy that we would, if you were to jump in a lake on a day that's 105 degrees, you get cooled off. But when you come out of that lake and there's a nice breeze, you're even cooler until you sit in the sun for about 5 to 6 minutes. Then you get hot again, so you jump back in the lake. It's no different for these cows. In fact, if you've ever in the middle of winter looked at a line of cows that were locked up, you'll see the amount of heat that they emit from their bodies in the middle of winter. And it's amazing. You can see it's like heat coming off concrete. Okay, it absorbs the heat and then it's released. Well, in the winter, you can see this really, really easy. If you look down the backs of all the cows, you see it. But and it's no different in the summer. In fact, it's worse because the cow is putting off the heat, plus it's hot. It will take, I think the research says, approximately 6 hours for a cow to cool off from an elevated degree. And anybody who's taken temperatures on cows in the middle of summer in 88-degree weather, they all run 103. They're not sick, they're hot. Okay, cooling will help. It's not the total answer, but it's better than nothing. So if they're nervous, if their intakes are down, and clammy udders, we can't get them clean and dry, it's a disaster for mastitis. In fact, that's when we see a lot of it. A lot of our E. coli, a lot of our Klebsiellos. So, hope that answered your question, Jim.
Thank you. We do have a question again from Vicki. Was wondering, do you see more issues with mastitis from damp paper bedding?
It's inert. The only way I think, even with sand, it's an inert product unless it's seeded with bacteria. And again, it's an easy fix because I can before I put the bedding down and before I put the sand down, I can put a lime base on there first. Okay, lime acts as a drying agent. It has for years. That's why we put it in the aisles in the old stanchion barns. It'll absorb moisture. Same thing, I can mix lime in with my paper, and it seems to keep it dry. Now, paper does pack, so it does need air, and you do have to maintain it. But again, it's an inert product that normally doesn't carry bacteria unless it's introduced. So, you know, stall cleaning, stall maintenance is vital. But otherwise, you know, with sawdust, it's a different story because the bacteria is already there. If we activate it with water, it gets kind of ugly. So manure solid's the same way. It's manure. We don't kill all the bacteria, okay? It's there, and we can reactivate it. So it's critical.
And it does look like we have one last question, Dr. Armon. Sorry to cut you off there. So viewer was wondering if you could explain how to flame the udders.
I use, well, we've got our flamer. There's different ways to do it. You can get a gas.
Yeah, we have the udder singe.
Yeah, we got the udder singe. So you want what I call a yellow flame. Okay, we don't want, you know, the blue flame that we use to you know, solder things. Okay, so we want a nice yellow flame, and it's just a quick back and forth. We don't want to hold it under there. They will burn them and you will get kicked. Okay, so we just basically want to take that big yellow flame and go right around the udder. Probably not more than 1 to 2 seconds. The first time, it can be a challenge. The second time and third time, it's much easier to do. I've had people that do them in stanchions. I don't recommend that because they got a little more freedom in their stanchions or their headlocks, and people get kicked. Usually in the parlor before they leave, and they forget about it quickly. But no, it's just nice yellow flame. Again, our udder singe is a great product. We've already pre-tapered the thing so you can get the proper flame, and then it's just a quick flashback. You can clip them also. I mean, if you're a smaller herd and your cows are real docile, you can clip them. They don't seem to mind that too much. Heifers do, but that's because they're not used to it. They know it's something they haven't experienced.
Thanks, Dr. Armon. And when we are udder singeing, or when we're kind of using the udder singe, or when we're clipping the hair, it's to help prevent manure and dirt from adhering to decrease mastitis, correct?
Yeah, okay, so if you have long hair on the udder, that's just a very focal point for bacteria to sit there, okay? If the longer the hair, the more bacteria. So we want to get rid of the hair. And, you know, we're not hurting the cow. They get used to it. They don't like the smell, but they get used to it. When I was first in practice and we started doing this, and I had to end up teaching these people how to do it because I was getting cows that were singed up to their pin bones. So, but yeah, it's a process, but it's not that difficult on a cow. They don't even know it.
Great, thanks, Dr. Armon. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close here? We are getting kind of a little bit close on our time where we're going to need to wrap things up.
You know, well, one thing I didn't really talk a lot about last week was, you know, types of towels we use in the parlor. And again, I did allude to it, but I want to, you know, I like the microfiber towels. I think they get the udders or the teats clean. Paper is fine. It's just that because you use an individual paper towel for each teat, it's just that you have a lot of waste. And again, when we're using towels or rags or anything like this, it's, you know, one per cow. We flip it over and use both surfaces of the towel. And remember, in the parlor, cover them because there's a tremendous amount of splatter that takes place in the parlor. If you ever saw a milker at the end of the shift, you can it's going into the towel barrel. So just put a cover on it. Hopefully that all helps. So
Thank you very much again, Dr. Armon, and like to thank our viewers for joining us today. I hope that they were able to learn something new. And don't forget to like, share with your friends, kind of our future videos that we'll be having. Just want to remind you guys too, all of our videos are recorded. So if you want to go back and rewatch them, or if you missed part of it, they're on our Facebook page and they're also on our YouTube channel. While you're watching that pre-recorded version, if you do have a question, still put it in the comments. We'll find it, we'll answer it, and we'll connect with you. Again, we'll be doing a survey after this live. It'll be posted in the comments. So you can let us know how we can maybe better serve you, any topics that you would be interested in hearing about, and even possibly having a prize for just filling out the survey. So now I would like to take this time to announce our No Fair Summer Giveaway Contest winners. So we had quite a few entries in, but it looks like for our reserve grand champion, you can have a drum roll, please. We have Brooke Biker. So Brooke submitted a picture to us, and Brooke was selected to be our reserved grand champion. So congratulations, Brooke. We will get in contact with you. So then now, for the much awaited grand champion. Big drum roll. We have Kristen. Kristen Conder is our winner of our grand champion No Fair Summer giveaway. So congratulations to our two winners, and thank you for everybody that did participate and submit an entry. You will be getting also a ice cream coupon just for sending in those pictures. So next week, we will have our very own Wayne Kyle, a territory manager with Armor for Northeast Wisconsin, and also Jesse McCoy with Neogen. They will be discussing water quality and treatment options on farm, so be sure to tune in. I'm sure we'll be able to get lots of great information on how to have better quality water on farm. So in honor of ice cream and the National Ice Cream Day coming up this weekend, I have my own ice cream here. We'll pretend it's butter pecan. It's just vanilla, but butter pecan. Pretty good. So we'll see you next Thursday on Have You Heard?